So I've been four-wheel driving for over 35 years and I've owned a heap of four-wheel drives in that time. I lived in Ireland for a while and the four-wheel driving there was okay, but it wasn't until I moved to Australia that I became absolutely obsessed with four-wheel driving. So today what I thought we'd do is go through all the four-wheel drives that I've owned and in my opinion just rank them from the worst to the best. What I liked, some stories along the way. It's going to be good fun. Growing up in Ireland, we had plenty of mud, there was no doubt about that, but there wasn't a massive four-wheel drive scene, but there was a four-wheel drive scene of sorts. And I remember, I wouldn't have been that old, that I went to this four-wheel drive competition and people basically had built, in those days, comp trucks, which were old Land Rover Defender, kind of 90s, all the stuff stripped out of it, the roof taken off, a roll cage bolted on, and off we went and watched these fellas just go up through ridiculous countryside in the rocky northwest of Ireland, which was absolutely massively inspiring for me. I just loved the idea of four-wheel driving. And ever since then, I've been into four-wheel driving. I just love it. Fast forward about 10 years, I got my first car, which was a 1990 Suzuki Vitara. Now, it was green. It was absolutely stock as a rock. I actually didn't modify this in any way, but I did take it off-road. Not much, because as I say, in Ireland there wasn't that much of off-roading to do, but a couple of my mates had boats, so we towed the boats with this, reversed it down the boat ramp, so I learned all my reversing skills and stuff from there. But the Suzuki Vitara was my first foray into four-wheel driving, and as such has a very special place in my heart. But where do I rank this? What we're going to do, we're going to stick these to the bottom for the worst, and the top's going to be it. This is all my opinion. Feel free to comment your opinion in the comments below, but this is just what I think. Worst to best. So the Suzuki Vitara, actually didn't mind it too much. I'm going to go respectable middle order. Then we entered the dark age of the Jeep era in my life. My next car was a 1998 Jeep Cherokee 4-litre petrol. Now, it was a four-wheel drive. It was very American, AMG, and it was actually the first non-military Jeep that was built with a unibody chassis. And it actually went really well. It wallowed. You go around corners and it would just wallow for days. The suspension was very soft. Again, probably didn't modify this too much at all. It was in Ireland still. Petrol was the preferred choice back in those days. In Ireland, diesel really was just used by farmers and tractors and stuff. I started camping out of this. I started, laying the seats back and would put a bit of a blow-up mattress in there and had a roof rack, and when we went camping, we'd chop up our firewood and throw it on top of the roof rack. So it was a very practical vehicle back in those days, but certainly not something that I kept for that long because I actually had to sell a kidney to keep the petrol in it. Where am I going to rank this one? Whoa, sorry, Jeep, but it's going right down there because it wasn't, in my opinion, that wholesome, and it was a Jeep. We didn't get out of the dark ages, we stayed in them. After the petrol Cherokee, I thought it would be really smart to go a diesel. This was the first new car I'd ever bought. It was a diesel. I think they were 2.5 litre turbo diesel Cherokee in black, automatic. Okay, so the engines in this, back some early LANDCRUISERs and Hiluxes actually had the same engine as this, but the engine unfortunately wasn't the problem with this Cherokee. I only had it for about 2 months and the brake lights wouldn't work one day. So I took it back to the dealership and I said, have you changed the bulbs? I'm like, yeah, I've changed the bulbs. Have you checked the fuses? Yeah, I've checked the fuses. They went out back, came back 10 minutes later and said, yeah, your brake lights aren't working. I'm like, really? Long story short, they had to send it back to Jeep in the UK over in the mainland because not being in Ireland. I lost it for 6 months. They had to rewire the whole car because what would happen is when the brake lights went out, the turbo didn't work. So it went into like a forced limp mode. This car I didn't keep for very long because I think it was a bit of a lemon. And that way, I'm going to rank this somehow below the petrol one. I'm going to put it right down here because it was pretty bad. Pretty bad indeed. All right. Now you're going to think I'm mad, and there probably is a definition of insanity doing the same thing and expecting a different result. But while the Cherokee was off getting rewired, the good boys at the Jeep dealerships in Belfast, they decided they would help me into another car while I was waiting for my Jeep to get fixed, my Cherokee. So I ended up driving a 1997 Jeep Grand Cherokee for 6 months while my Cherokee was getting fixed. The Cherokees back in those days, I think they were the only SUVs that had a V8 option in them. So this one was the V8, and you know what? It went. It had leather seats. It was amazing, actually. The powertrain in it was brilliant. I didn't end up doing too much four-wheel driving with this, but this was a very, very comfortable car to drive. I actually really enjoyed driving it. It looked not too bad back in the day, and yeah, this was probably my favorite Jeep out of all of them, even though I didn't do that much with it. But I'm gonna stick it just underneath the old Suzuki because it actually didn't do too bad of a job. Okay, so this is pretty much the Irish area. After that, after the Grand Cherokee, we emigrated to Australia. My wife's Australian. We moved to Orange. I didn't have any money to buy a four-wheel drive at the time, so it took me till we moved to Canberra, which was about 3 years after we moved to Australia, to buy another four-wheel drive. And the four-wheel drive that I bought was a direct result of pretty much value for money against what you got. Now, the company I worked for at the time, a couple of the blokes who I worked with in that company out of Sydney, they were driving these, and they went down to the Snowies a lot and did four-wheel driving then, and all of a sudden realised that the four-wheel drive scene in Australia was immaculate. It was so good. There was so much opportunity. Australia is the best country in the world, in my opinion, and look how much four-wheel driving there is here. My mind just exploded with what was here. So my next car was a 2002 NM Pajero. Now, this thing we did quite a few modifications on off the bat. We put a new bull bar on it, we put a 2-inch lift in it, we put BFG all-terrains on it, put airbags in the back, I got a dual battery system put in there so we could put a fridge in the back, and we really started taking our camping a bit more seriously. We were still in tents in those days, but our first trip was up the Snowy Mountains, and we got right up the top. We camped and there was ice on the ground the next morning. It was freezing. We were in a Coleman 6-person dome tent thing with inflatable mattresses, and yeah, weren't really prepared for the cold of the Snowies, but the Pajero went everywhere. I bought this second hand. It was probably 6 or 7 years old at the time, and it was a brilliant four-wheel drive car. These before this model, or might have been this model even, but some of them, obviously the Pajero was a big factor in the Paris-Dakar Rally for many years, so Mitsubishi, you know, they know how to build four-wheel drives. The four-wheel drive system in it was really good. I forget what it was called, but where you change from 2 to 4-wheel drive was just, it was seamless. It was really good. The Pajero I have a lot of time for. I'm just going to talk about this. So this is there's a scale on this. So this is the bottom of the pile. There's a bit of daylight between there and here, but the Pajero, I reckon, it comes in up here. The Pajero I really liked it. Love a Pajero. Yeah, big place in my heart for one of them. Now, don't judge me on this one. I kept with Mitsubishi after the Pajero. I had to get a work car for the real estate photography that I do. So we needed a car that would hold, before drones, one of these big pneumatic poles. Now, it had to be a van, and I do love my four-wheel drive. So the only choice in those days was a Mitsubishi Delica, the Bongo van. Now, these things have a massive cult following. They are a four-wheel drive, but they are very, I don't know, top heavy and narrow. But four-wheel drive, I took it to Stratty, we took it to Morton, we took it a lot of places four-wheel driving. Probably wasn't the most reliable thing in the world. I was taking the kids to school one day while they were younger. On the way to school, it overheated lots. We had to pull up at the side of the road and wait for it to cool down. This was a comfortable car to drive. The gear stick, or the gear stick was on the steering wheel. You were sitting right in front of the engine, and it was a big thing to climb up into. I really enjoyed driving it. Probably not the best car I've ever owned, but Delica, yeah, it was okay, but it's probably going to sit. Where is it going to sit? I'm probably going to put the Delica there, underneath the Grand Cherokee, but still above the other Cherokees. So finally I got a bit of sense about me, and we enter what I like to call the Toyota era. So we got a couple of puppy dogs, a couple of golden retrievers, so we needed to get a ute to take them places and go to the beach and do all that sort of stuff. So we end up getting a Hilux, an N70. Now, the N70, it's iconic in Australia. There's a gazillion of them. There's modification parts for them everywhere, and that's kind of where we started, really modifying our car. So the Hilux, it was a dual cab with a tub. We put a canopy on it, but then we did the bull bar, the lift, the tires, and we bought a camper trailer, and we started dedicated taking our camping a little bit more, well, a lot more seriously with a camper trailer. In the Hilux, it was the 3-litre turbo diesel, so the real good engine. It went everywhere. It towed everything. Went to Fraser, went to Morden, went to Stratty, started going up to the Glassy, started doing some proper tracks, really learning about, well, we moved up to Brisbane in that time because with the Pajero, we were down in Canberra. The Delica was up in Brisbane, but we didn't really take it too extreme. But the Hilux was the first car that I owned that we could take to proper tracks, and it's still one of my favorite cars ever. The N70 is bulletproof. Yeah, my daughter ended up, what was her first car? She got an N70. Andy's first car was an N70. His second car was an N70. So we've had 4 N70s in the family. We just rate them. These cars are absolutely, and they still look good. Like, they stopped making the old shape in 2015? So 10 years ago. You still see so many of them on the road. That's a testimony to their build quality. Toyota Hilux N70. I'm going to put it slightly above the Pajero because that's where it should be. Okay, so we had that N70 for probably 5 or 6 years. When it was time to upgrade, there was only one choice. N80 Hilux. This one was an SR. It does say SR5 there, but it's actually an SR. I bought this second hand from a dealership, and before I even got it, we shot it straight around to 4x4 Customs in Capalaba, and we got a rival bar put on. We got a dual battery, or a full second battery system put in. We got suspension done. We got wheels and tires done. Window tinting done. We put a canopy on it. I knew it was one of the Bush Company alloy canopies that they used to do. Well, they might still do. We put that on. And we put drawers in the back, fridges, all that stuff. So we were full 4-wheel drivers by this point. It was fully modified. I didn't do any of the work myself. That was kind of the last time. Not that there was anything wrong with what the boys did. They did an amazing job, but I started wanting to do everything myself after that. So the N80, the SR N80 was a brilliant, brilliant vehicle. And I think it was, from memory, the first Hilux that offered 3.5-ton towing capacity. We got a bigger camper trailer, the hard floor double fold camper trailer, which weighs about 2 tons, so it was a big dog. We started taking it everywhere again. You might have seen a picture, but I did get myself into a fair few predicaments with this car. LANDCRUISER Mountain Park back in those days, we went there. This one did Camp Road. Where am I going to put this? I'm going to put this above the N70 because that's where it should be, because it was a brilliant car and never let me down. So we are firmly in the Toyota era, and trust me, I love my Toyotas now. After that N80, when it was time to change that, the new LED headlight, the new fancy SR5 was out, so I ordered one. It was during COVID. Took it about, I think it was about a year to come. So that gave me time to save up. I went to MW, got a custom tray-on canopy built. We got suspension done by ARB, wheels and tires. And we got rooftop tent, got a Bush Company rooftop tent, which is still on this car. Bush Company awning. That's where we really started to ramp things up. Now that SR5 I spec'd up. I got the leather seats put in it. It had the adaptive cruise control. It had heated seats. It had all the bells and whistles. Like, this thing was amazing. Took it a year to come to me. Blue, the Nebula Blue. I got the ARB, it was the Safari bar with just the one chrome hoop in the middle, but the bar was color coded. I'll pop a picture up, I've plenty of pictures of it. It was amazing. It was really good. I took it to Stratty, and we took it to the Springs, and we took it to a couple of 4-wheel drive parks, but I'll tell you what happened after this. I'm going to rank it first, and then I'll tell you the story. So the N70, this was my second ever brand new car to this day. This was a cracker. It goes here. Purely because, no difference between these two, but this one had more gadgets in it, and I love a good gadget. So the story with the Hilux, I only ever owned it for 6 months, 7 months. And the reason for that is, not long after I got it, the opportunity to buy this came up. Now this is my dream car, the LANDCRUISER 79 series single cab V8 2020 model, and it was my father-in-law bought this car and was selling it. I bought it, so I sold the Hilux. Only had it for 6 or 7 months, and I went from this amazing Hilux that had CarPlay, not wireless, but CarPlay, all the gadgets that I just spoke about, to the farm truck that had one cup holder and indicators and headlights and wiper blades, and that was it. There's nothing in these things. So I've probably spent the last 3 years trying to get this Land Cruiser back to where the Hilux used to be, in far of, terms of gadgets, accessories, driving, cup holders, armrests. Anyway, you've all seen the videos how I built this. Where do I put this? There's only one place. Can't go any higher. It's my favorite car. I will never sell this car. I honestly cannot think of another car I would ever rather drive than this. This is going to be something that I will keep forever. Whether I get a little bush basher or a run around, and at the minute I'm lucky enough that this gets parked in the shed during the week. I only drive it at the weekends, try and keep the Ks up and try and keep it good for as long as possible. Future mods for this, there's lots. I want a new tray and canopy because the tray's too heavy. And I'm going to talk to Ben from Explorer Oz to hook me up with one of those. I'd like a tune. The warranty's running out in about 2 weeks. So I'll put a tune in it and a new airbox, get that sealed, get it right after Andy sunk his. We both need new proper airboxes. New wheels and tires. I want to go back to 35s, but before I do that, I want to get new suspension underneath too and make it a little bit more comfy because it is a bit rough at the minute. And after that, that's it done so far. This has been 35 years in the making, getting to this Land Cruiser, and I absolutely just love it. So in my opinion, this is the best car I've ever owned and ever will own. We're a massive Toyota family. So my wife got a Prado at the minute. The car before that was a Prado. Andy, as you've seen on the channel, he's had 2 N70s and now he's into a 79 Cruiser. My daughter had a Hilux N70. She's now sold it and's got just a little runabout car, but we've all had Toyotas. We're a massive Toyota family, and it's something that, I don't think I will ever have a different car. But if I did, and not that I'm selling it, but if I was lucky enough to be able to have a second car, just as a project, well, there's probably 2 that I would love to build. I'd love to build an old FJ truck. I'd love to build an old FJ truck, or I'd love to build an old Land Rover Defender 110, like a proper military one. I'd really love to get, not the patina one, just an old 110. I'd love to build that up. That would be something that I would dream of. So what I want to know is, what were your guys' first cars? Drop a link in our Instagram and our Facebook, and we'll pick some out and put the best ones up. And I'd really love to hear what you guys, where you started, where you're at now, what your future plans are. And let's keep this conversation going. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please remember to subscribe if you like this sort of content, and we'll see you in the next one.